Hello, strangers, or possibly people I know. This is Daniel Handler, often accused of being Lemony Snicket. I'm here in my office in San Francisco, where I sip espresso and drink water and write television screenplays based on books for which I'm responsible. Read poetry. And roll pencils around and await questions from people I probably don't know. And now I'm waiting for them. If people are typing questions and it seems like I'm not answering them, it's because I'm not seeing them or being made aware of them, due, I'm sure, to my own technological inaptitude. Oh, look, I see one. What's my favorite book? Well, my favorite book changes all the time, but this is April, Poetry Month, so I'm reading only poetry, and right now I would have to say my favorite book is probably a tie between The Others by Matthew Rohrer, which I liked so much that I bought 10 copies. I'm giving them out. If you come to my house, don't, if you're a stranger. But if you were a friend of mine and you come to my house, I'm probably giving you one. And then this is Morgan Parker's new collection. She's a poet I'm certainly crazy about. It's called There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce. It's a great collection, and I read it rapidly and eagerly, and it made me go back to her previous collection, Other People's Comfort Keeps Me Up at Night, which I think is the second time I flashed that on the screen. So I like it a lot. Those are my favorite books right now. Oh, currently reading is another question. I just started this, which is really great so far. Undercastle by Feliz Lucia Molina, and also Constellarium by Jordan Rice. Well done, Jordan Rice. This is a great book so far. The other one seems good. I'm only on like page 2. Someone writes, I wrote you a letter when I was a kid and I got a telegram back with misspelled words like in the wide window. That was nice of you to write me a letter. I'm glad you enjoyed the response. What is the best children's book of all time? Obviously, The Bear's Famous Invasion of Sicily by Dino Buzzati, the famed Italian writer. No one likes this book as much as I do, and I've abused my power as a children's author and forced it back into print. Jade Davis asks, is it just me or is the live stream freezing? I don't know. I don't even really know what that means. It sounds like maybe you're sitting by the side of a stream and it's winter time and you're wondering if it's just you or is the stream freezing for anyone. That's what I'm guessing. What are you writing now? I'm working on a fairly secret Lemony Snicket book, but I'm also working on the 3rd season of the Netflix adaptation of a series of unfortunate events. I'm supposedly not allowed to tell you what I'm working on exactly, but I'll just hold that up. How's my day? Am I okay? Someone writes, yes, I'm fine, thank you. I had a lovely day. I went swimming in the San Francisco Bay. I made myself some rice and kimchi, and now I'm working. Have I released the winner of the poetry contest yet? I have not. We got an amazing, I wish I could take you into my living room and show you this enormous box that contains all of the submissions for the poetry contest by Per Diem Press that I ran. I've read them all. I've narrowed them down. I've made a huge box of no, that's not happening, sorry. And then I've narrowed it down to a few that I'm rereading eagerly. There's some really good ones. It's hard to decide. Someone asks, I love kimchi and rice. Not really a question. Oh, do I cook? Yes, I do. I'm responsible for just about all of the cooking in my house. When I go away on the first night, my wife, by herself, eats leftovers that I made last time. The second night, she eats brown rice and a fried egg. The third night, cereal. The fourth night, cereal. The fifth night, cereal. And cereal until I come back. Deirdre Purdy writes, oh, maybe I shouldn't say people's names. Anyway, says, any relation to David Handler? No, except that I'm called David Handler all the time. And someday I hope to meet David Handler because I hope he's called Daniel Handler all the time, and then I'll make us both feel better. I'm also not related to Ruth Handler, inventor of Barbie, or Chelsea Handler, comedienne extraordinaire. Does my wife help me write? My wife inspires me constantly because she's a delightful and wonderful woman. Where do I draw inspiration from? Swimming in large bodies of water and reading many books that I've previously held up for you. Where is the sugar bowl? Oh gosh, I hope the live stream doesn't freeze up while I'm explaining where the sugar bowl is. Oh gosh, it froze up. Someone asks, how did I get my start in writing? Well, when I was very young, I liked to write stories and I wrote them down. I guess that counts as my start in writing. I got my start in publishing after writing a novel I knew was bad that was rejected many, many times, and then a novel I thought was pretty good that was rejected many times and then finally accepted. It was The Basic 8. It's still in print. Some people still enjoy it. Did I expect the series to become so big? I assume you mean a series of unfortunate events? No, I never thought anything would happen to me. My life is a constant source of surprise and bewilderment. Can I tell you something about more of season 2 of a series of unfortunate events? I wonder what I can tell that would be interesting to people. We're very excited about it. We've just been filming a few days. Every night, in the middle of the night, arrives in my inbox footage of what they're filming up in Vancouver, where they're filming it. I'm going to Vancouver sometimes to get to see it for myself. It's very exciting. I'm very proud of all of the actors who are doing a marvelous job. Right now I'm quite taken with the young actress who plays Carmelita Spatz. She does a very good job. And in person, she's quite fierce and fearless. I admire that. What's my favorite self-help book? The Collected Poetry of Elizabeth Bishop. Who is my favorite Baudelaire orphan? Oh, I can't even think about that. That's awful. I can't even think about it. Normally when I see a group of siblings, I can't even choose a favorite. Oh, I've just been handed this piece of paper that says, they asked if you could say the names of the questioners. Sure. I was trying to respect your privacy, but I forgot. This is Facebook. There's no privacy. Not only should I say your names, I should also click on you, learn humiliating things about your life, and repeat them. But I won't. Please come to Brazil. That's nice of you, Jose Luis. I will gladly come to Brazil. See you there. Sam Sprague, or Sprague, is it like a Prague with an S, asks, how did I find narrating some of the Unfortunate Events audiobooks? I found it very difficult and extremely trying. Some people like them. Other people, including me, think Tim Curry did a better job. It was really exhausting for me. It was a debilitating experience. So I begged Tim Curry, please, will you take over and keep on doing them? You do a much better job. And he said, sure. Oh, Artina Arifi asks, what are those pictures behind you mean? Trouble. It's hard to do when you're looking at yourself on a screen. Trouble is a piece of art that I like. There's a picture of a distant relative of mine. There's a picture of my son. There's a Tommy Ungerer illustration because I admire him. There's an old star chart. There's much odd art in my home. Someday we'll take a tour together. Nabal Salam says, hello from Nigeria. Hello. How are you? You really enjoy my work. That's nice of you to say. Many people are just saying compliments, which feels strange to read out loud, so I'm not going to. Someone says, did you have a say when they auditioned for the cast of A Series of Unfortunate Events? I sort of did. I would say, that is an interesting person, or yes, how about that? Or can we please have a more diverse cast than we're currently auditioning? Things like that were things that I said. And sometimes they listen and sometimes they don't. Gosh, questions are going so quickly. Becky Beisner-Thompson asks, have you ever refused a change from a book? I'm not sure what that means, but I like thinking about it. Have I ever refused a change from a book? Maybe she means, did my editor suggest something sometimes and I would say no? Yes, all the time. But my editor, Susan Rich, she edits most of my books, and my other editor, Nancy Miller, they're hardly ever wrong, in fact. I like to think that they're wrong, so they ask me something and then I get enraged about it, and then I take a walk and then I say, oh, they were right all along. Emerson Rocha says, hi Daniel, I love you. That's sweet, not a question. Forgive me if I mispronounce anyone's name. I have no excuse. I'm saying hello to Mahogany, a bookstore employee and a giant fan who wrote to me when he was 12. Hello, Mahogany. What's my favorite palindrome? Stella won no wallets. What's my pin? You can Google it and find out. Will the Netflix series have some details about some of the unresolved mysteries of the books? It depends what you mean by details, and it depends what you mean by unresolved. What do I think about pineapple on pizza? I'm opposed to it. Can you please come visit the East Coast? I do, Micah Elizabeth. I come visit the East Coast all the time. I'm sorry that I haven't visited you personally, but I thought it would be awkward to show up at your home, which I could probably find through Facebook. I just thought that wouldn't go well. Can you let us know who's playing Esme Squalor? No, I'll get in big trouble. But she's very charming as a person, and also powerful, and also hilarious, and also terrifying. Samantha asks, how have your silent reading parties been going? Delightful. Everyone should come out to the Hotel Rex once a month. You can read about it in San Francisco. There's also a silent reading party in Seattle and a few other towns. Seattle's where it started, so we did one in San Francisco. You read silently. You bring a book and you sit and you order a drink, and the money goes to a public elementary school library, and you read silently. There's some music provided by my DJ handle. Please be quiet, I'm trying to read. DJ, please be quiet, I'm trying to read. Mostly classical music and some soft jazz to help you feel ambient in a way that will allow you to read comfortably. Leah Hatcher says, come visit us in Seattle again. Okay. What is your favorite literary device to use in most of your writing? Says Athena. I would have to say litotes. Perhaps only because I really like saying the word litotes. You can look it up. Ronald asked me when my next accordion gig is. You may hear my accordion on the new album by the Magnetic Fields, 50-song memoir, an enormous box set consisting of 50 songs. You may also hear me play Celeste, piano, Hammond organ, vibraphone. I think that's all. I got to play a lot of things. Oh, and I sing a little bit on it too, if you're interested in such things. What's my favorite part of working on the show? Watching people who are excellent at their jobs do it. Nick Arata, for instance, is writing songs. He's really good. Barry Sonnenfeld is directing. He's a very good director. I like to watch him work. I have a charming writer's room. Sigrid Gilmer, Joshua Conkle, Joe Trace, and Aziza Abba Butane. They do wonderful work with me. We meet in my dining room. You can't see it here, but that's the writer's room over there. We have some whiteboards. I make them soup and other things for lunch, and then, of course, a cocktail hour. That's enforced at my writer's room. Any plans to work with Myra Kalman again? Asked Lainey Jordan. Yes, I love working with Myra Kalman. Our new book, Weather, is kind of the excuse for me appearing here on Facebook. I'm quite proud of it. Myra and I both enjoy talking about the weather and thinking about the weather. And so we enjoyed. It was probably a book that took us a long time, actually. But I was going to say the longest. I don't know if it was the longest, but we had a delightful time. We always do. We had a wonderful time with 13 Words. We had a wonderful time with Why We Broke Up. We had a wonderful time with all the books that we've done with the MoMA, including Weather, which is the latest one. It's about the weather. It seems now, in retrospect, that perhaps that would have been a good book to hold up rather than other people's books. But that's my way. Becky Beisner Thompson, maybe is how to pronounce it, asks me, what book series do you follow? She says you in all capital letters, meaning me. I'm a big fan of the Jeeves books of P.G. Wodehouse. Does that count? Tom Drury writes novels often all about the same people, starting with The End of Vandalism. I don't know if that counts as a series. Alexandra asks, who is the best A Series of Unfortunate Events character in your opinion, and why is it Count Olaf? I've always enjoyed Bruce, who sadly is not in the latest Netflix adaptation of A Series of Unfortunate Events. Bruce was a character always dear to my heart. Someone asks, how do you handle, there's a joke I haven't heard since, forever, being in front of all these people. I took some extra espresso to give me what I'm sure appears to be a manic energy, to get over a strange feeling of feeling that everyone is looking at me in my office. Riley Meyer asks, where stylistically has your writing taken influence? I greatly admire your composition. That's flattering. Reading too much Vladimir Nabokov, I would say, in college over and over again, probably had a huge influence on me. Laurie Moore. Who else? Toni Morrison. I went through a long Toni Morrison obsession. I mean, not that I'm over Toni Morrison, but it's less of an obsession and more of a strong fascination now. And a ton of poetry. Leah Hatcher asks, you're a Ravenclaw, right? No, my name is Handler. I don't know what that means. Nitin Chopra asks, how do I be you? Which only reminds me of Why Can't I Be You by The Cure, a song that I enjoyed very much in high school. Many people are asking me what book I'm proudest of, and I would like to say, in all honesty, that I feel vague and foreboding shame about all of my work as soon as it is too late to change it. While I'm working on it, I sometimes admire it, and then they say, okay, you can't work on it anymore, it's done now, it's done, and I say, great, it's a great book, off into the world you go, book, and then almost immediately I start to think, oh my goodness, it's terrible. Alexander Sanchez asks, what's the S in S. Theodora Markson standing for? The answer is actually in the final volume of All the Wrong Questions, and it charms me very much when people figure it out and write me a letter telling me so. Okay, people are making dandelion jokes about my first name. Interesting. I don't think I'd ever heard that. Growing up, people would call me Daniel Boone, as if that were a thing to make fun of, and then, of course, with Handler, you can make a million inappropriate touching jokes, which, you know, at first were frightening in elementary school, and then confusing in middle school, and then hilarious in high school, and then after college, you know, then just terrible. How do we write to you? My address is quite easily findable on my website. If you'd like to write to me postally, that's what I prefer. If you'd like to email me, please don't. Beth Kevin Davis says, the curse of being an artist, never feeling it's done. Also not a question, but I'm raising my espresso cup that is from the Cafe Zoetrope in San Francisco in solidarity with you. Yes, it's true. Do I have a specific type of music that helps me write? Asks Mr. or Ms. Rains. Gloomy classical music, and kind of early drony electronic music, and some Indian classical music. I should have said first Western classical music that's kind of doom-laden, Russian or German or British. How much influence, Colin Marshall asks, how much influence have you had on the visual style of the Netflix show? I would say I've had none. I would say the biggest influence is Brett Helquist. His illustrations are often used for reference, which is nice and also disconcerting, I believe, to Mr. Helquist. And then, of course, Bo Welsh is the production designer. He has been the production designer on many a fine movie. Here's a story about Mr. Welsh. We asked him, what are you tired of designing? Because you've done so much production design. And he said, a villain's lair. He said, I hope no one ever asks me to do a villain's lair again. So then, of course, we in the writer's room kept saying, let's set all of season 3 in a villain's lair. But we're not going to. Ms. Foltz asks, what's the favorite place I visited and what was I like as a child? As a child, I was short and talky. I wasn't short for a child, I was just way shorter than I am now, and a reader of many pretentious books. And my favorite place I visited, I like Tasmania a lot. I like Hobart, Tasmania. I went there once some years ago, and then I went there more recently with my sister, and she and I had a wonderful time. Eating sea urchin, strolling along the blustery beaches, looking at strange wildlife, falling asleep in the back of a car while a zoologist drove us around. We had a wonderful time. Do I still like many pretentious books? Yes, I would say that I do. I mean, I don't know. Pretentious, it's not as if I pretend to have read them when I haven't, but I often read books that other people find off-putting. What fruit or vegetable do I most closely identify with? Asks Joshua Mitchell. Maybe the radish? Maybe the blueberry. I don't know. Ann Williams asks, is there any TV show that I love to watch, guilty pleasure or otherwise? My wife and I watch a ton of Law and Order. It's kind of all we do, is lie on the sofa and watch Law and Order. We're big fans of it. We both have a crush on Esapatha Murkerson. We often argue over who would get to date her if it came down to that. We have a lovely time. Well, Emma Whitethaler, my cousin, how are you? Gabriel Siegel asks, SVU? No, not Law and Order SVU. We don't like its right-wing anti-sex bent. We prefer the traditional, or Criminal Intent, because my wife also has a crush on Vincent D'Onofrio. Many people are thanking me, which is very moving to me. Someone asked me, is TV currently in a renaissance? Agree or disagree? I have no idea. I think some people think it is. I don't know. Law and Order seems the same to me. Someone asks, does Mr. Poe have cancer? I hope not. And I hope you mean Mr. Poe the character and not, say, any actor who's played Mr. Poe. K. Todd Freeman seems in the prime of health. He's a nice man. Mahogany Turner Francis says, how do you like working with your wife with illustrations? I love it. My wife and I are quite fond of one another, being as we're married, and spend many times cracking each other up. And then when we have an idea for a book, we get very excited that we're going to work together. And then, of course, it's a lot more difficult to illustrate an entire picture book than it is to write it. And so I like a collaboration in which the other person has to do way more work than me. That's how I'm comfortable. We have a picture book coming out shortly called Goldfish Ghost, about a dead goldfish. If you're interested in death or in loneliness, this is the picture book for you, Goldfish Ghost. Justine Mayhew says, do you have any other books you'd like to be turned into movies or shows? I don't know. It's exhausting turning things into a movie or show. Everyone is exhausted. You end up getting yelled at a lot. Sometimes it isn't fun. Any other books you'd like to be turned into movies or shows? I'm sorry, many people are asking questions that I don't understand at all. Someone has asked me about the Jewish themes in a series of unfortunate events. I'm can talk about that a little bit, I guess. I am Jewish and was raised Jewish and find the idea of certain secret texts having a powerful hold on the imagination and the culture to be a beautiful idea. And also that suffering comes from no reason all the time relentlessly. Those both seem like big Jewish ideas to me. Not that we're the only people who have suffered, etc., etc. Someone says, what do I have to do to get you to come over here to our high school? I don't know. Where is your high school? What would I do when I got there? Would I just be lurking outside your high school? I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. Many people are offering coded messages and language concerning various books by Mr. Snicket, which charms me. Oh, someone, Rosa Irwin Clark asks, who are the LGBT characters in a series of unfortunate events? Actually, she says, who are the LGBT characters in ASOUE, which is a lot of acronyms in one sentence. I would say that I encourage everyone who reads the books to speculate on everything we don't know that isn't delineated in all of the characters. That is why there's so little physical description of anyone in a series of unfortunate events in terms of their culture or bearing or anything like that. And I like people thinking about that. So I have theories about who is queer in various Snicket books, and but I like everyone to think about who that might be. It's probably more than you think, as in life. Will Creech asks, Will Creech, were you actively influenced by any absurdist or existentialist works or writers while writing a series of unfortunate events? Oh, come on. Obviously. How can one not be? All of them. They're all delightful to me. Demi Diane Flay asks, do you read any more horror books like Stephen King? I read some Stephen King when I was young and it really terrified me. And then later in my 20s, I was reviewing a novel for a newspaper by Stephen King, and so I reread some Stephen King and I found it just as terrifying. And then I met him and he was very nice. For a brief period of time, we shared a stalker, but that's all I'm going to say about that. Someone asks if I'm Daniel Handler or Lemony Snicket. I'm Daniel Handler. Lemony Snicket is much more handsome, even more handsome than I am. Oh, now several people are asking about the Illuminati. Interesting. Someone is saying, would I accept chocolate chip cookies in exchange for visiting Pittsburgh for a book signing? I was in Pittsburgh not that long ago. Cookies aren't the way to my heart, frankly. I mean, I enjoy a cookie occasionally because who doesn't? But I'm more of a savory gentleman. My wife, though, will do anything for a cookie. She's shameless. Sometimes when she's sleeping, this is a secret, sometimes when she's sleeping next to me, she talks in her sleep about cookies. Oh, someone is asking me about Three Masquerades, which are 3 novellas by Rachel Ingalls, an author I adore. She's most known, but not very well known, for the novel Mrs. Caliban, which is also coming out, which is being put back into print. But Pharos Editions put out a book called Three Masquerades, which is 3 short, creepy, alluring, mysterious novellas by Rachel Ingalls. And I wrote the introduction, though most of the introduction consisted of me sending some questions to Rachel Ingalls and her very charming answers. So I feel I hardly wrote it, actually. That actually Rachel Ingalls, as appropriately enough, would served as a wonderful introducer of her own work. Ryan Walsh says, do you have a favorite library? I have a few favorite libraries that I like to go to and work in San Francisco, and I'm not going to out them because then maybe I would be creepily approached. I visited a library in Dublin, Ireland that I liked very much. I like the Beinecke Library in New Haven very much. That's a nice library. Many people are asking if I have any tips for beginning writers. So one is to carry a notebook with you. Not all writers do this, but I do. So you can write down things that occur to you so that you might not forget them. This is my notebook here. It actually just started this notebook yesterday. It has a sticker on it. I don't know if anyone can see it. I found this tucked into a book that I bought at an independent bookstore, and that charmed me. So I put it on the cover of this notebook so that when I'm at the movies and I have an idea and I can't see which end is the front of the notebook, the sticker helps me. I also write in it with my favorite pen, the Uniball, named after an obscure medical condition. So eavesdrop, and then also what you have to do when you're starting out as a writer is to reread your favorite books. You have to read them over and over again. You have to take them apart like you're taking apart a clock and see if you can figure out how they work. What is my favorite word? I do like defenestration, Courtney Brocconi. Defenestration is a word that I like a lot. I also like the word wrong, as in all the wrong questions, because I think it automatically starts a story. He walked into the wrong door. That's already a story. She was looking through the wrong peephole. That's a story already. Lee A. Fallows asked me, have I heard of the author Roald Dahl? Please, Lee A. Fallows, what do you take me for? I've read everything by Roald Dahl. His best book, in my opinion, is Danny, the Champion of the World, which I think is kind of an overlooked classic. Oh, someone says that their favorite word is penultimate, and they learned it from my books. That's nice. Doreen Diaz asks, how do I express anger? I usually project it towards inanimate objects, mechanical devices. What is my least favorite word? I think it's a lot of people's least favorite word, but the word moist is pretty terrible. Don Gilson asks, ever read Octavia Butler? I do love me some Octavia Butler. In fact, there's an Octavia Butler reference in season 2 that I think just got cut out, and I was very sad because it got to be a little tribute to Octavia Butler, uttered by the young actors playing the Quagmires. But now I don't think it's in the script anymore. Samantha asks, do you write a lot of poetry? No, I started out writing poetry and I don't write it anymore, which is a severe relief to the world and to me. Plus, I like reading poetry and not feeling competitive with it. I just like reading it and being a reader. My favorite hard-boiled detective writer would have to be Raymond Chandler, if he counts. I think Raymond Chandler is an astonishing American author. He's underrated, I think, believe it or not. The Long Goodbye is a pinnacle of achievement in American literature. I would put it up there with Beloved and Time Will Darken It and Light in August, Lolita. Sarah Elizabeth Hill asks, how did I meet my wife? I met my wife at Wesleyan University, which we both attended. At the time, I was suffering from a seizure disorder, and I had a seizure, and I passed out basically in her lap in the middle of Chaucer class. And when I awoke from the seizure, I had to apologize, which is a wonderful way to start a relationship. What are my writing goals for the future? I have some novels I'm working on, and I would like to finish them. Samantha just finished her thesis on The Sound and the Fury. Congratulations, pour yourself a stiff cold drink, unless you're not old enough to drink, in which case ignore that advice. But a thesis on The Sound and the Fury, that deserves some kind of liquid celebration. Someone asked me, do I think that writers can critique their own work? I actually don't trust a writer who can't critique their own work, but I mean, I don't think they can critique it, like write an essay about it. That would be boring. Somebody asked, what do I like writing the most? What I like writing the most, and this is probably not what you mean by the question, but what I like writing the most is taking my Uniball pen and writing it on this legal pad. That's my favorite thing. Okay, I'm told now that my time is up. All right, time is up. Most of you seem charming. Thank you for visiting me. I hope that I was not too awkward in a medium in which I feel very little comfort, but I have a lot of respect for people who are writing me with such nice things. Goodbye, all. Be good to your mother.